At 1740 Eastern Time on June 21, 2025, a 30,000 pounds chunk of hardened steel and explosives fell through the Iranian night at 700 miles per hour in exactly 43 seconds. The GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator will punch through 200 feet of reinforced concrete and granite on its way to make the newest parking lot in Iran, the Fordo nuclear enrichment facility, buried so deep that conventional bombs might as well be firecrackers, is about to learn firsthand why Americans don't have free healthcare, how exactly this bomb ended. Up here is a testament to the most amazing and well choreographed military operations in over 20 years. 18 hours earlier, the ground crew at Whitman Air Force Base works frantically around this aircraft, one of only 19 operational B-2s in existence. Each bomber cost $2.1 billion, that's billion with a B, making it literally worth more than its weight in gold. The crew chief runs through the pre-flight checklist. 14 GBU-57 MOPS loaded on rotary launchers, conformal fuel tanks topped off with 180,000 pounds of JP-8 and the APQ-181 radars in each bird are in full stealth mode at 0001 Eastern Standard Time on Saturday, June 21. The first B-2 rolls down Whitman's 12,400-foot runway. The Spirits for General Electric F-118 engines produce 17,300 lb of thrust each, whisper quiet compared to conventional jets, but still powerful enough to lift 336,500 pounds of airplane and ordnance right into the night sky. The pilot maintains a shallow takeoff profile to minimize the infrared signature. Even friendly satellites shouldn't see too much, but not all of these B-2s are destined for Iran. Tonight 7 B-2s would launch eastward toward Iran, while another group headed west toward the Pacific. The deception was simple but brilliant. Russian and Chinese satellites tracking the westbound group would report B-2 movements toward Guam, creating diplomatic noise and intelligence confusion. Meanwhile, the real strike package ghosted eastward into the Atlantic darkness. The Atlantic crossing is where things start to get a bit sporty. B-2s can fly 6,000 nautical miles without refueling, but that's with internal fuel only. The conformal tanks add range but also drag, cutting that to about 4,500 m from Missouri to Iran and back. That's 14,200 m. The math doesn't work without tankers. The first aerial refueling happens around 0400 over the mid-Atlantic, now connecting a refueling probe in daylight is like threading a needle at night in turbulence, with both aircraft flying at 400 knots. That's like threading a needle while riding a mechanical bull in a dark closet. The boom operator extends the flying boom from the KC-135 tanker. The B-2 pilot has to maintain an exact position 30 feet behind, 15 feet below, with zero lateral deviation. One tiny mistake can cause irreparable damage that causes this bomber to divert back home. Because of this, the pilot flies with surgical precision, taking on fuel at a rate of 1,000 pounds per minute, while the boom operator sweats bullets despite the freezing stratosphere outside. By 15:30 Eastern Standard Time, after 2 more refuelings and 15.5 hours of flight, the strike package approaches Iraqi airspace. And this is where the real fun begins. For F-22 Raptors materialize from what seems like an empty sky. Their APG-77 radars painting everything within 200 miles while remaining virtually invisible themselves. The lead Raptor Pilot checks in with brevity codes that would sound like gibberish to anyone. Listening Disco 47 sweet picture clean. No factor translation, the skies ahead are clear of threats these 4 F-22s. You see escorting these bombers are pure air superiority loaded with 6 AMRAAMs. And 2 Sidewinders each ready to splash any Iranian fighter brave enough to take off behind them. 8 F-35s bring up the rear. The Iranian Air Force might be decent, but against 2 squadrons of 5th generation fighters they might as well stay home. At 1839 local time, the lead B-2 begins its attack run. The pilot enables the GPS-aided targeting system, which talks to multiple satellites simultaneously to achieve accuracy. Within 5 feet, the rotary launcher in the forward weapons base spins up, positioning the first mop for release below the Ford facility. Sits under 300 feet of mountain, protected by granite that's been here since before humans invented the wheel. In about 60 seconds the U.S. military will change up the geography a bit, but these are not the only units dropping warheads on 4 heads this evening. 2 hours earlier at 1700 Eastern Standard Time 1200 M from where the B-2s are approaching Iranian airspace, the captain stands in the control room of a guided missile submarine, probably the USS Georgia, and watches the digital countdown on the tactical display. The Georgia isn't like any other submarine in the world. Originally built as an Ohio-class ballistic missile submarine carrying nuclear-tipped Trident, she was converted into an SSGN, a guided missile submarine, at a cost of $700 million, where she once carried 24 nuclear ballistic missiles. She now packs 154 Tomahawk land attack missiles. That's more cruise missile firepower than an entire carrier strike group's complement of DDGs and cruisers can carry. The Tomahawk Block 5 in Georgia's vertical launch tubes represents 40 years of evolution in cruise missile technology. Each missile costs $2 million and can deliver a 1,000 pounds warhead up to 1,500 m away with accuracy measured in inches, not yards. At periscope depth about 60 feet below the surface, the Georgia is vulnerable. Her ANBBS-1 photonics mast breaks the surface like a metallic periscope, creating a radar return that any competent operator should spot. But the Iranians are looking in the wrong place. Their coastal radars are focused on the Persian Gulf's narrow waters, not the deeper waters where the Georgia lurks. However, launching missiles from underwater isn't like a video game. Each Tomahawk sits in a canister filled with high-pressure gas. When the launch command arrives, an explosive charge breaks the canister seal, and gas pressure literally shoots the missile out of the tube like a cork from a champagne bottle. The missile breaks the surface at 50 feet per second until the solid rocket booster ignites and sends it climbing into the night sky. But Newton's third law is a harsh mistress. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. When you punch a 3,000 pounds missile out of a submarine, the submarine wants to go the other direction down. The ballast control team must compensate in real time, pumping water between trim tanks to maintain the desired depth too slow, and the submarine broaches showing itself to every radar within 50 miles too fast, and she plunges below safe operating depth at 16:05 Eastern Time. The first Tomahawk erupts from the ocean surface. The solid rocket booster burns for 12 seconds, accelerating the missile to 550 miles per hour while climbing to cruise Altitude: the booster falls away and the Williams F-107 turbine engine takes over. Basically a miniature jet engine that pushes the missile at high subsonic speed by 60. All 30 missiles are airborne each. Missiles ANDPW-23. Radar altimeter maintains precise height. Above terrain sometimes as low as 100 feet. While the guidance system compares stored satellite imagery with what it's actually seeing. It's like having Google Maps that can't be jammed, spoofed or confused. The flight time to ISPA from here is 127 minutes. That timing isn't random. It's precisely calculated to arrive 30 minutes before the B-2 strikes, softening air defenses and creating chaos for the main attack, while Iranian air defenses focus on the high-altitude stealth. Bombers 30C launched cruise missiles will be sneaking through the back door. At treetop height the captain watches as the missiles disappear over the horizon. Each one shows as a blue triangle with a countdown timer. The submarines roll in. Operation Midnight Hammer is complete. But the weapons she's launched are just getting started. The Block 5's two-way satellite data link means these aren't just flying bombs, they're reconnaissance assets as they fly toward Isvastan. They're transmitting imagery back through satellite relays, giving real-time battle damage assessment capability. The Georgia begins her descent back to patrol depth, vanishing into the thermocline where temperature differences bend sound waves and make acoustic detection nearly impossible. Above her 30 cruise missiles are making history, but there is one more thing. America has launched before the B-2 bombers enter Iranian airspace tonight. At 1600 Eastern Standard Time a massive fighter sweep accelerates ahead of the B-2 formation, over 60 aircraft forming the largest coordinated sea package since Iraqi Freedom 4 F-22 Raptors. Led at 50,000 feet, followed by 8 F-35 as at 35,000 feet, several dozen FA-18 Super Hornets at 25,000 feet and 4 EA-18G Growlers, bringing up the electronic warfare element behind them. Dozens more F-18s are orbiting the Gulf, ready to go in if things get hairy, while multiple KC-135 and KC-46 tankers loiter in Iraqi airspace, and an RC-135 Rivet joint aircraft vacuums up every electronic emission within 500 m. Here's the tactical calculus that drove the loadout planning. The F-35s remained in a pure air-to-air configuration, each equipped with 4 AM rams serving as stealthy forward sensors. The real seed punch came from 3 dozen FA-18 Super Hornets spread across multiple squadrons, with some carrying 3 harms, others loaded for air-to-air, and others configured for escort. The Super Hornet force provided considerable magazine depth, over 60 harms available if needed. Combined with 8 harms from the Growlers, the package could engage ever radar in Iran twice over, but they'd only expand what they needed. The F-35s would find the radars. The Super Hornets and Growlers would take them out, while the F-22s took care of any Iranian fighters that dared to get in the way. The strike 1131 package spreads across a 60-mile front, creating overlapping fields of electronic surveillance. F-35s use their ANASC 239 electronic warfare suites to passively map Iranian air defenses while remaining electromagnetically invisible. When they detect a threat, they pass targeting data via Link 16 to the Super Hornets, who can engage from standoff range without compromising the F-35 stealth. 50 miles South the EA-18G Growlers initiate their electronic symphony. Each aircraft's 3 ALQ-99 pods pump out 30 kW of jamming power across multiple bands. Simultaneously, Iranian radar operators watch their screens fill with false returns. Phantom aircraft appearing and disappearing. Ranges that shift randomly. Bearings that make no sense. It's information warfare. At the speed of light at 1732 and S-300. Battery near Natanz breaks emissions. Control its 30N6E2. Fire control radar attempting to burn through the jamming the moment it transmits. 3 separate aircraft have firing solutions and F-35 detects it first through passive sensors. A Super Hornet receives the data link and launches an AGM-88G, while the Growler simultaneously targets it for reactive jamming. The harm accelerates to Mach 2.5. Its millimeter wave seeker memorizing the radar's location. Even when the S-300 operators realize their mistake and shut down 15 seconds later, it's too late. The missile's GPS-INS guidance puts the 146 pounds warhead within 10 m of the radar vehicle. The explosion transforms a 100 million air defense system into burning scrap metal. The Super Hornets work in pairs, one designating targets while the wingman engages when mobile SA-15 systems attempt to relocate. F-35 sensors track their movements through infrared signatures, vectoring the Super Hornets for quick intercepts. The integration between 4th and 5th generation fighters proves devastating. Stealth platforms serve as sensors while legacy fighters act as shooters. By 1735 the SEAD mission had expended 31 harms, achieving an equal number of radars and SAM sites destroyed. More importantly, every surviving radar has gone silent. The psychological effect multiplies the kinetic damage. Iranian operators trained to fear American SEAD capabilities since Desert Storm choose survival over duty. The Growlers shift to communications jamming, targeting military frequencies from VHF through UHF bands. Ground controlled intercept frequencies go silent. Sampite coordination channels fill with static. Even Iranian cell phone networks in the target areas experience disruption as military jammers spill over into civilian bands. The F-22s maintain high cover. Their APG-77 radars searching for any brave Iranian pilot who might launch. None do. The Super Hornets, all carrying harms, orbit in boxes assigned by the mission planners. The F-35s continue their electronic surveillance, building a real-time map of every surviving air defense asset for future strikes. At 1739 Eastern Time, with the corridor sanitized and silent, the B-2s begin their run. The 125 aircraft Armada has created a highway 50 m wide and 200 m deep where American aircraft operate with impunity. Not a single missile has been fired at coalition aircraft. Not one Iranian fighter has taken off. By 1740 the Bombay doors of the first B-2 are opening. It's time to kick off the main event of tonight's show. At exactly 1740 Eastern Time, the first GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator falls free from the lead B-2's weapons bay. For a moment it hangs there in the thin air at 45,000-foot. GPS receivers acquiring satellite locks, tail fins deploying with mechanical precision. Then gravity takes over and 30,000 pounds of hardened steel and high explosives begin. 1554. Its date with the laws of physics. The pilot feels the aircraft jump slightly. As the weight releases, the B-2s fly by. Wire system compensates instantly, but losing 30,000 pounds, about the weight of 3 school buses, creates a distinctive sensation. His weapons systems officer confirms what the instruments already show. Bird away, good separation, GPS lock confirmed. But here's the brutal mathematics of bunker busting: kinetic energy equals half the mass time velocity squared. That mop will impact at 700 miles per hour, delivering 1.5 billion joules of energy, roughly equivalent to a freight train hitting a wall. The hardened steel penetrator, forged from the same alloys used in tank armor, will punch through 200 feet of reinforced concrete or 40 feet of solid granite. The Ford facility sits under both at 1740 and 43 seconds. Exactly 43 seconds after release, the first mop strikes. Impact creates a localized earthquake registering 2.3 on the R/R scale, but the weapon doesn't detonate on impact. That would waste its potential. Instead, the smart fuse counts down as the penetrator bursts through rock and concrete, waiting for the precise moment of maximum effect. The warhead, 5,300 pounds of trionyl explosive, detonates 180 foot underground, creating a cavity 30 feet in diameter. The over pressure wave travels through solid rock at 15,000 foot pers, finding every crack, every seam, every structural weakness. Concrete designed to withstand 10,000 psi meets forces exceeding 100,000 psi. It just doesn't crack, it literally turns to powder. But one mop isn't enough. The mission planners know this. That's why 12 are slated for Fordo. Each impact point is calculated to create overlapping shock waves, turning the mountain strength against itself. The remaining B-2s follow in sequence, each releasing their mops at precisely calculated intervals from the ground. It would look like artificial meteor strikes, flashes of light followed by thunder that rolls across the mountains at Matans. The strike profile is different. Only 2 mobs target this facility because it's not as deeply buried. The weapons officers actually have to delay the release to ensure proper spacing, dropping 2 30,000 pounds bombs too close together would reduce effectiveness as their blast waves interfere destructively. Meanwhile, 700 m away, the Tomahawks launched from the USS Georgia enter their terminal phase. Each missile nose camera activates, comparing what it sees with stored imagery. The ANDPW-23 scene matching system achieves lock, and the missiles make final course corrections. They've been flying for 2 hours, burning through 350 pounds of fuel, following terrain like 20-foot long homing pigeons at as fast in the night. Shift workers hear them coming. Williams F-107 turbofans produce a distinctive whine at 550 miles per hour, but hearing them and stopping them are different problems entirely. The facility's Tour M1 point defense systems, already confused by American jamming, try desperately to achieve lock. Their engagement envelope is only 12 kilometers at Tomahawk cruising speed. That's less than 49 seconds from detection to impact. The first Tomahawk strikes the hexafluoride storage building at 19:05 Eastern Standard Time. It's 1,000 pounds unitary warhead designed for maximum blast effect. The explosion doesn't just destroy, it aerializes tons of uranium and hexafluoride, creating a toxic cloud that makes the facility uninhabitable. The next 29 missiles arrive over the following 45 seconds, each targeting specific buildings identified through years of intelligence work. The B-2s are already turning 4 Home their fuel calculations showing exactly 180,000 pounds remaining, enough to reach their tankers with regulation. Reserves behind them 3 nuclear facilities burn in the night. Total time over target 25 minutes. Not a single surfacito air missile was launched. Not one Iranian fighter even attempted to get off the ground. The element of surprise was total. The mission execution was flawless. In the space of less than half an hour, Iran's nuclear program just got set back to square one. In 25 minutes, the U.S. military did what 7 prior presidential administrations couldn't do: take away Iran's nuclear capabilities for good. Bye for now.